Welcome to Trucking Safety with Sam Watts. I, of course, am Sam Watts because, like I've said before, it would be weird if I hosted this podcast and my name actually wasn't Sam Watts, okay? It'd be kind of like a Leonard Skinner thing. Did you know in the band Leonard Skinner, nobody in that band is named Leonard Skinnerd? Like, what are we doing here? Like, why would you do that? Did you know that the singer-songwriter James Taylor is actually named James Taylor? I think that was true. I could be wrong, but I think his name is actually James Taylor. But anyways, no, welcome to Trucking Safety with Sam Watts. I say this every time. I'm so excited that you guys are here, that you've decided that, hey, let's give that podcast about trucking safety another shot. That just makes me feel good. So thank you very much. One of the things that also makes me extremely happy is that we have a sponsor of this show, and that is Ewing Safety and Industrial. They're out of Morris, Illinois. They are fantastic. Here's the deal. You need like some gear wrench stuff. You know Gear Wrench, the actual tool maker? Of course you know them. You know how good they are. Ewing Safety sells them, okay? So if you need anything from gear wrench stuff to anything else basically that has to do with safety or even like, okay, so here's the deal. I was in there one time and just hanging out with Katie, the owner, fantastic person, and a guy came in and wanted to buy some safety jeans. Like, okay, I know that there's like safety jeans out there, but I didn't really know that people actually used them. But yeah, there actually are jeans out there that are thicker that, you know, safety people, who work on job sites and stuff like that, they like to have. And so he bought a pair there. I'm like, you guys even sell clothing. I mean, you're basically Walmart of safety and industrial stuff. So if you need anything from them, make sure you check them out. EwingSafety.com is where you can find them on the web, or go to Morris, Illinois, see their store, and you won't be disappointed. So thank you very much. EwingSafety.com. That's EWING. Okay, like Patrick Ewing. Like I said before, still not a huge fan of his, but I do like Ewing Safety and Industrial. Good people. Not owned by Patrick Ewing. Anyways, okay, so in the news lately, obviously, has been Hurricane Helene, and it's devastation. I mean, I've got a sister-in-law in Florida and brother-in-law in Florida, and we were all kind of expecting and talking to them and saying, hey, what's happening down there? And they're like, it's rain, and they had a tornado warning also, but I didn't expect, and I'm not sure if anybody else expected, for that hurricane to make its way as far north as it did. I'm sure weather people did, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, just the devastation that is caused in Tennessee and the Carolinas and all that stuff it's just wild to see. I mean, just houses and trucks and trailers floating away, and even parts of the interstate system, Interstate 40 outside of Knoxville there, just gone. Like, I guess I didn't even know that could happen really, but I suppose once a river, gets to a certain height, all things are possible. Man, you do not want to mess around with water. Holy cow. Which is why I didn't even bother to learn how to swim, because I'm like, I don't really plan on being around water that much. And luckily I'm over 6 foot, so I can reach in any pool that I'm in, but you put me in the deep end of the ocean, I'm in trouble, okay? But the devastation that has been coming out of the pictures and the video are just heartbreaking. People are losing everything, and a lot of semi trucks and drivers down there, and now obviously it's not the same as losing a house or even a loved one, but now the semi trucks are going to have to drive a long ways around to get to truck routes. And, the interstates are shut down or flooded. And now, they're going to add a lot of time onto their routes. And it's going to be a real challenge. Again, not to downplay anything, but this you're going to start feeling the effects of this, because loads that were now 1 day in transit are going to have to be 2 days. If the warehouse is open, I mean, it's going to be a long recovery process just in the transportation world, just to get through this thing. But that kind of got me thinking a little bit about hours of service. And I know that might be kind of a weird thing, but as a safety guy, that is what I think about. That's where my mind goes. I mean, I was in operations, so when I was in that realm of trucking, immediately I was thinking, okay, how are we going to get loads to and from areas, and what can we do to do that? And let me just say this too. One of the best things, if there is a silver lining to something like Hurricane Helene out there, it's the recovery that happens. Like, it's the American spirit comes together, man. And I've seen so many trucking companies that have said, you know what, we got to get supplies down there as soon as we can, load them on our trailers, let's get them down there. And it's one of the best things I've seen, when tragedy strikes, is how we as Americans just kind of unite and say, let's make this situation better. So if you are one of those trucking companies that are doing something to get, relief effort down there, get food, water, all that kind of stuff to those people, man, hats off to you, okay? That's such a great thing. And like I said, if there is a silver lining to all this, it's seeing that kind of spirit coming out in people. I just got to think that, especially in this political environment that everyone's trying to show our differences, man, this is something that just brings us all together, and we need more of that. Now, I'm not saying we need more natural disasters, but I'm just saying we need more of this, just coming together, man. I think you'd be surprised at how much a lot of us actually have in common. But it's always those little things that, they like to nitpick at and really try to tear you apart. And anyways, this isn't a political podcast, and I don't intend on making it one. So we're going to kind of go away. But again, kudos to all of you who are trying to make and help out in this thing. They need it. They desperately need it. But like I said, when it comes to stuff like this and having to do truck routing and having to maybe go out of your way and stuff like that, my mind kind of starts going to hours of service. How can we do this? How can we make this work? And like I said, that's one of the things I think that makes me unique versus some other safety people, is that I have more of an operations mindset, where a lot of other guys have a legal mindset, a legal background. And again, nothing wrong with that, okay? They just happen to be smarter than me. I guess it's kind of how it goes. But I came from an operations background, so my mindset is more of on the long lines of, how can we do this? How can we work with the hours of service, and how can we really make this work? I see what you're trying to do, operations, and there's some times where I just have to say, it doesn't work. Okay, you guys can't do that. Driving for 20 hours straight, that's illegal. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. Oh, you just want to switch over to paper logs? How about no? Okay, anyways. But there are a lot of times where they'll say, we want to try this, or we want to do that. And then I get to go back and think, okay, can we do that? How can we do that? Can we utilize splits? Can we do this? Can we do that? It sometimes turns into a fun little puzzle. But when it comes to hours of service, there are a couple tools that the FMCSA has given to trucking companies to use to help with their hours of service and help their drivers, do better, I guess is a thing. It gives them some arrows to put in their quiver of hey, you're in this situation. Here's a thing. Here's a tool that can help you out. And that's the way I look at all these hours of service things out there, or exemptions or special rules, is they're tools. Okay. Tools are made to be used, and if you use them properly, they work, okay? Again, going back, if you went and bought a hammer from my friends at Ewing Safety and Industrial, but tried to use it on a screw, it wouldn't work very well. And vice versa. If you tried to use a screwdriver as a hammer, it doesn't really work very well. But if you use a hammer on a nail and a screw on a screwdriver, it works, okay? You have the right tools. Well, that's what hours of service are. That's what the FMCSA has given trucking companies. They've given them some certain tools to make their job better and to help the drivers out a little bit. And so we've talked about hours of service before on this podcast, but what I want to talk about a little bit today is those special options that drivers have in their quiver for hours of service. So the first one is the massive obvious one. Personal conveyance, okay? Now, we could probably have a 3-hour podcast on personal conveyance. Most of you would probably fall asleep through it. Some of you might stay awake, which is amazing. Maybe it took a 5-hour energy beforehand, which seems to be the only energy drink that actually works for me. However, tangent. We're not going to do that. Okay. So there are some little nuances to personal conveyance. And I will say 9 times out of 10, drivers think that they use PC correctly and they don't. Okay. And really, I don't blame them because there is some gray area in PC and there are some there are some rules in PC where, to me, they don't quite make sense. Okay. I think it's kind of bad, but I'm not the FMCSA and maybe they're watching and they're, looking for my phone number to come and arrest me. But that's a fight I'm willing to take on. No, please, FMCSA, don't arrest me. But there are a couple things. So PC, a lot of times drivers will think that just because they're empty, that they can use personal conveyance to do whatever they want. That is not true. Okay. Personal conveyance, there's really only a handful of reasons to use personal conveyance. And the thing that I like to tell drivers is here's kind of a rule of thumb. If the trucking company tells you to do something or go somewhere or be somewhere, you can't use personal conveyance for that. That's kind of an overview general rule. Now, please, fellow safety people out there, I don't need to get hate mail over this because, again, I'm not diving into nuances here. So just, put the pen down. I know that, you're going to start quoting this is 393.5 section B says this. I'm like, I don't care. Okay. I mean, I care, but I'm just trying to explain this so that everyone can understand it. So just put the pen down, take your fingers off the keyboard, just enjoy. Okay. So rule of thumb, like I said, if the company tells you to be somewhere, go somewhere, do something, you can't use it. You can't use PC for that. The big one that you can really use PC for is if you need to literally run personal errands with your vehicle, with your truck. And that is to go get groceries or for entertainment, go get dinner, stuff like that. Okay, that's a big one. The other big reason why a driver would use personal conveyance is if they're at a shipper or a receiver and they run out of hours while they're sitting there being loaded or unloaded. And then afterwards they say, the shipper or receiver says, hey man, you can't stay here for your break. You can use personal conveyance to drive away from that facility, okay, and go to the closest safe haven, the closest spot that they can park safely, okay? Now, one thing I've had to explain to some of my guys is that you can't use it to go to your favorite safe haven, okay? Because I've seen guys where they'll try to drive up to 150 miles away because, I like the Loves better than the Pilot. FMCSA doesn't care. DOT doesn't care, okay? You got to get to the safest or the closest spot, all right? Take your 10 hours, shut down, then you can move on. That's usually the most common one I see is when guys use personal conveyance, is when they have to get away from a shipper receiver because they won't let them stay there. Okay, that's probably going to be the biggest one that you see. The one that drivers always seem to screw up, and this is kind of the one too that I have a little bit of a beef with because I do. I see the driver's point on this one a lot. And I don't quite see the FMC. I mean, I guess I understand why the FMCSA has it, but again, I kind of side with the drivers on this one. If a driver goes to a receiver, gets empty, a lot of times I see them using personal conveyance to drive home. And you can't do that, okay? And again, I get it. I wish you could, because I think you've delivered, it's off, you're empty, you can go home, okay? That's a personal trip home. But the FMCSA doesn't see it that way. So, unfortunately, I have seen guys get busted for trying to do that. They're 70 miles from home, throw it in PC, they head home, they get stopped, and the DOT officer gives them a violation. Now, come on, DOT officer, be cool, okay? I'm just saying, the guy's trying to get home. He's been on the road for 2 weeks, whatever. Again, this is the one that I don't quite agree with. I think they should change that. I really do. I understand they say it's a continuation of the dispatch, but man, let the driver go home. Come on, be cool. Anyways, so that's a big one that a lot of times drivers will think that just because they're empty, they can PC anywhere. That's not true either. Okay. In fact, I worked at a company a while back, actually during the COVID time. And if you remember COVID, my goodness, it was the Wild West. Okay, you didn't have to barely run an e-log for anything as long as you were hauling food or supplies or anything like that. My goodness, just put it in the wind and go. And I was working for a reefer company, and we hauled a lot of that stuff that was exempt, and so away we went. However, we forgot to actually log the trips in between picking up and delivering. Okay. So like we would deliver to a spot and then we'd go to the next shipper and pick up. You were supposed to log that, you're supposed to put that in your e-log, and we never did. And we got busted for that one. So that wasn't as much fun. But a lot of times guys will think, hey, I'm empty, I can PC anywhere I want. You can't. Okay. If you were told to go, or, I've seen another one where owner operators do this one a lot, is where they'll say, I delivered into Birmingham, Alabama, and I know there's nothing coming out of Birmingham, but I know there's something coming out of, Memphis, Tennessee. So they will personal convey up there to get to a better spot. You can't do that either. Okay. You can't advance yourself to get to a better spot. I know that's like I said, a lot of owner operators like to do that because they're like, it's my personal vehicle, and okay, maybe you have a point, but it's not going to work. So that's personal conveyance. Again, we could probably dive into more of that, but like I said, the big one is going to be leaving a shipper receiver. You can PC out of that, and the big one is you can't PC when you're going home. Okay, I get it. You just can't do it. So anyways, personal conveyance, great tool to have. Use it correctly. Okay, so the other one that kind of goes along with PC is yard move. Okay, yard move is another great tool to use. This one's a little harder to abuse though, in my opinion, because a lot of times ELDs will actually put a mile per hour restriction on it. So basically what yard move is, you get to a shipper receiver, you're within their confines. Technically, I think there's supposed to be a fence around there, but as long as there's kind of like a distinct entrance or exit out of there, I think you can kind of get away with that. But when you're in there, you can throw yourself on a yard move, and then it doesn't go against your driving time, but it will leave you on duty. Okay. So it's not like PC where you go off duty, no driving, you can start your 10-hour break doing it. This one will leave you on duty, but it saves you drive time, which again is really helpful if you're going to a spot and you just need to putt around 15 miles an hour around the yard to get to your dock or to pick up a trailer or something like that. That's where yard move really comes in handy. Again, and a lot of times e-logs will, after 20 miles an hour, it'll just throw you automatically into drive. I've seen that before. So this one, again, not as hard to abuse, but a really good tool if you're running low on drive time or you're on a trip that, it's going to be tight. So yard move, keep that one in the back of your mind as well. Okay. So now one that could have been used maybe for Helene. And I say maybe, because there is a adverse weather driving exemption. So what happens with that is if you get caught in weather that makes you slow down, you can put yourself in adverse weather and get up to 2 extra driving hours to get out of that, get to a safe spot. Okay. The caveat with that one is it kind of has to be unexpected weather. So when I say I don't know if Helene would have qualified for that, is because we knew about that one. Okay, that one didn't come out of the blue. Okay, people knew Helene was coming. What the weather exemption one is more for is if you're driving somewhere and you get caught in a snowstorm or heavy rain or even heavy wind, even a mudslide. If you're going out in California and stuff like that, they get some mudslides out there. That's where this adverse weather exemption comes into play. Okay. When you have to slow down because you got caught in weather that you did not see coming and no one really told you about. Yeah, they might have said it was snowing or raining, but you know what I'm talking about. Like you got caught in the rain where all of a sudden you go, holy cow. In fact, what was it, 2 months ago, maybe even a month ago, driving up to Minnesota, I got caught in a rainstorm that I was literally down to 10 miles an hour, wipers going full blast, could barely see anything, okay, on the interstate system. That's the kind of stuff. that they're talking about with this adverse weather condition. Okay. Now, like I said, you get up to 2 hours to get out of it. But here's the thing, and this is the one part that always trips up drivers when they try to use this. When you get out of it, you got to take yourself off of the adverse weather. It's not like you get 2 free hours to just, pluck and then, hey, there you go. I got 2 free hours. Cool. Yeah, let's do this. No, if you are driving, get caught in a rainstorm for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, and you put yourself in adverse driving or adverse weather, you got to take yourself out when you get done with it. Okay. If you're driving and it's blue skies or not raining or whatever, and DOT pulls you over and sees that you're in the weather exemption, you're going to get a violation, okay, for falsification of logs. So make sure that if you do use it, you get yourself out of it, okay? And like I said, that's one thing that drivers always seem to get, hey, I got 2 hours, let's go, No, you don't. You got enough time to get out of where you're going or to get to a safe spot, okay? Now, one of the other little caveats or exemptions, am I using the word caveat a lot today? I feel like I am. Maybe that was a subliminal word of the day or something like that I heard, and now it's in my conscious. Anyways, one of the other special kind of HOS exemptions out there, or not even exemption, but a special HOS rule is the 16-hour short haul rule. And, a lot of times I've seen drivers mix this up with the adverse weather exemption because they both kind of come out to 16 hours and they just get a little confused with it. And that's, it is what it is, but that's why I'm here to help you guys out with that and hopefully teach you a little bit more about this. The 16-hour short haul rule is just that. It's for guys who are running regional stuff, and it gives you 2 extra hours of on-duty time. So it doesn't give you any extra driving hours, but it gives you 2 hours of extra on-duty time. So instead of a 14-hour clock, you now have a 16-hour clock. There are some special rules to that, though. You have to start and stop in the same location. So it can't be, you're driving in and now all of a sudden you're 150 miles from where you're delivering. Hey, I can get 2 more hours. No, it's not how that works. You got to start and stop in the same location, and you can only use it once, basically a week. Okay, that's kind of the long and short of it. You can basically use it once a week. So this is kind of put out there for drivers who maybe drive their own equipment and then come back and need to work on some stuff. They don't have a mechanic, but they're on duty fixing things. That's kind of where this comes into play. Or if they themselves are unloading something, you got to be on duty for that. That's where this comes into play. So it gives you 2 extra on duty hours, nothing with the driving, but 2 extra on duty hours. And that seems to help out local guys quite a bit. And like I said, because there's 16 involved in that one and involved in the adverse weather, sometimes guys can kind of get them a little confused, even though they're kind of made for 2 different things. So, there are others, okay? There are other little special things, caveats. I hope I'm using that word correctly if I'm using it so much. I guess that's the big thing. After the whole episode 2 acronym debacle, hopefully I use vocabulary correctly. But there are other little special rules out there, but those are kind of the big ones, okay? Those are the ones that I see drivers using a lot. Obviously, personal conveyance is going to be the biggest one, okay? That's just every driver thinks they know how to do it, and every driver tries to do it. And yes, I have turned PC off for a number of drivers because they've abused it. Like I try to be cool about it and say, hey, you did this wrong. I'm going to go in, I'm going to fix that to go back to driving, and don't do that again. And they go, oh yeah, okay, no, I promise I won't. And then like 2 days later, they do the same thing and said, okay, I'm turning your PC off. Okay. That usually with all ELD providers, they have that option to turn that off because quite frankly, abusing PC is okay. So there's sometimes drivers just make an honest mistake. A lot of times though, and I'm not harping on anybody, but a lot of the repeat offenders of PC know exactly what they're doing and they're trying to sneak it by. Okay. And you just can't have that because if they get caught doing that, if they get caught PCing when they shouldn't, that's again a falsification of logs that goes against your CSA score on your HOS CSA points there. And it doesn't take much for that HOS to start creeping up. And all of a sudden now you're over the threshold because you got a bunch of guys trying to cheat the system. Okay, it's just not worth it. Let them go into drive. Okay, when in doubt, go into drive. Okay, that's what I like to tell my guys. Again, if I don't tell you to do something, kind of the general rule of thumb is if the company doesn't tell you to do it, you can probably PC it, but make sure you double check, okay? Because again, there are a lot of drivers think they know how to do it. I've seen a lot of them not do it correctly. So anyways, again, there's a lot of other, or there's some other HOS ones, and maybe we'll get into those in future episodes, but these are just a couple I wanted to cover today. These are the most common ones. Again, there's a lot, there's some more nuances to it. And if you want to really dive deep into it, feel free to go pick up one of those green books. They're about that thick. And you could turn to the section that covers HOS, and there's some more rules that's laid out in there. But this is just kind of a brief overview on how they work, why do we have them, how they can be used to your advantage. Okay. Again, these are tools that you can put in your belt. And I firmly believe that. And I think if they're used correctly, they work perfectly. Okay. And you won't be sorry you used them. But if you have questions about this stuff, feel free to go through the green book or feel free to contact me. Okay. I'll put my email address at the bottom here. Feel free to reach out. Say, hey man, love the podcast. Love everything that you do. Everything is solid gold that you touch, but I got a question. By all means, feel free to write away. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you guys out. I'm here to speak for the entire safety community. Maybe not the entire safety community. Okay. But, try to put all this safety stuff into plain terms so that everyone can understand it, because a safe driver is a successful driver and a safe company is a successful company. And I can prove that. Okay. Maybe not like scientifically, but like there are things that I can show you that if you're safe, you will be successful. No doubt about that. So anyways, again, feel free to reach out to me though. I love talking to all of y'all. I can't say that. I'm too northern. I love talking to you all. And so remember how like the last couple weeks I have just been struggling to figure out, what do I say? What's catchy? What's witty? What all that kind of stuff at the end of episodes? Well, I figured it out. Okay. So I believe in a higher power. I believe in God. I believe that there's a heaven. I believe all that good stuff. Okay. And if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out. So I thought one of the things that always encourages me is a great Bible verse, okay? A verse found in the Bible that really encourages me and all that kind of stuff. So I thought at the end of my podcast, I'm going to share one with you guys. It's going to be a different one. Feel free to write in with your favorite ones. Maybe I'll talk about that. I'm sure I will, because I love a good Bible verse, okay? I love studying the Bible. It means so much to me. There's so many different things that you catch. Like, hey, you read it one day, it says this. You read it the next day, it says it's just an evolving book, and I absolutely love it. So today's verse is coming out of 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, and it says this: "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." Huh? How about that? Isn't that great? So I leave you with that. Go out there, not with the spirit of fear, but with the power of love, or with but of power and love and self-control. Okay? You guys can do it. Thank you very much. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll see you next time.